Hey everyone, David Shapiro here with a quick video. I was having a conversation with a good old friend of mine, and I mentioned the term toxic stoicism, and she's like, "What is that?" And I said, "Oh, that's a thing that I have come to use to talk about this concept that's in society." So I figured I wanted to teach you guys what toxic stoicism was, and I'll use GPT-3 to help. So let's say write a formal definition of Stoicism. Stoicism, a philosophy that holds that the best way to deal with difficult situations is to remain calm and rational. So that's fine. Write a brief history of Stoicism. The Stoic philosophy was founded by Zeno of Citium in the 3rd century BC. It teaches that the way to deal with difficult situations is to remain calm and rational. The Stoic philosophy was very influential in the Roman world and was later revived in the Renaissance. Okay? Who were some famous Stoicists? I guess it would have been Stoics. Okay, so Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher Seneca, and the writer Epictetus. Sorry. Okay, so that's kind of Stoicism in the sorry, brain fart. Stoicism in a nutshell. There you go. Okay, so given all this, what is toxic Stoicism? Provide an academic definition. There we go. Okay, so toxic stoicism is an unhealthy form of the philosophy that holds that emotions should be suppressed and that suffering is to be endured without complaint. This can lead people to bottle up their emotions, which can lead to mental and physical health problems. Okay, so if toxic stoicism is an unhealthy version of stoicism, what's the difference? What is the difference between healthy stoicism and toxic stoicism? How should a healthy stoic handle emotions? Okay, so healthy stoicism is about finding a balance between emotions and reason. It is about being able to control emotions rather than suppressing them. A healthy stoic should be able to handle emotions in a constructive way. So I do want to point out that the entire premise of Stoicism is fundamentally flawed. All humans have emotions, and emotions drive everything we do, regardless of what a philosopher thinks. However, let's say, how does let's see. How does Stoicism influence society today? Let's say American society today specifically. Let's see. Stoicism has influenced American society in a number of ways. For instance, the stiff upper lip mentality is a form of Stoicism that is often admired in American culture. This mentality encourages people to keep their emotions in check and not to show weakness. So this thing about not showing weakness, you probably noticed what we're building towards. What is the overlap between Stoicism and toxic masculinity? There is some overlap between Stoicism and toxic masculinity. Both philosophies encourage people to suppress their emotions and to not show weakness. This can lead men to bottle up their emotions, which can lead to mental and physical health problems. All right, it's starting to repeat itself, so we have to delete it. Okay. Write a formal definition of toxic masculinity. Masculinity, I know how to spell. Toxic masculinity is a set of harmful gender norms that dictate that boys and men should be tough, aggressive, and emotionless in order to be considered, quote, real men. This narrow definition of masculinity can lead to negative outcomes such as violence, homophobia, and sexism. Okay, so we've started over. So now let's say, let's say how did Stoicism contribute to toxic masculinity? The Stoic philosophy, which was popular among Roman and Greek men, taught that emotions should be suppressed and that reason should be the guiding force in one's life. This philosophy contributed to the idea that men should be emotionless and stoic, which is a harmful stereotype. Okay. Because, men are emotional, just as emotional as women, if not more. And, there's nothing wrong with that. So there's a book called Permission to Feel. I don't want to get too sidetracked. How can we stick with this prompt? Let's see. Is it even true that men don't have emotions? No, it's not true that men do not have emotions. Men are just as capable of experiencing wide range of emotions as women are. However, the toxic masculinity ideal dictates that men should suppress their emotions. So not that they don't have it, but should suppress it and present themselves as tough and stoic. It is both harmful to men and women. Yes, patriarchy hurts everyone. Let's see. Why did Stoicism and toxic masculinity take hold? Let's see. It says, it is likely that Stoicism and toxic masculinity took hold because they are seen as strength and power. Historically, men have held more power than women, and these harmful gender norms may have been used to maintain that power imbalance. Interesting take. Perhaps. Personally, having done some extra reading on the topic, I will say that suppressing emotions in America comes from Victorian times. So let's see. What is the recent history of Stoicism? Start with Victorian England. Write a short academic paper. The Stoic philosophy, which was founded by Zeno of Citium, teaches the development of self-control and fortitude as a means of overcoming destructive emotions. The Stoics believed that by understanding the reason for things, one could attain a state of inner tranquility. The Stoic philosophy was very popular in Victorian England. Many of the leading thinkers of the time, such as Thomas Carlyle, John Stuart Mill, and George Eliot, were influenced by Stoicism. Carlyle even wrote a book called On Heroes, Hero Worship, and the Heroic in History. I wonder if that's a real story or a real book. In which he extolled the Stoic virtues of fortitude and self-control. The Stoic philosophy fell out of favor in the 20th century, but is making a comeback in recent years. There has been a resurgence of interest in Stoicism among academics and the general public alike. This is likely due to the fact that Stoic philosophy offers a practical and down-to-earth approach with dealing with the challenges of life. Okay, nothing wrong with that. How did the French Revolution influence Stoicism in Britain? Let's see. The French Revolution had a profound impact on Stoicism in Britain. The events of the Revolution, such as the storming of the Bastille and the execution of King Louis XVI, showed the British people that it was possible to overthrow an unjust government. The French Revolution also inspired British Stoics to develop their own philosophy of government. They believed that the best form of government was the one that allowed the individual to pursue their own happiness without interference from the state. The British Stoics were also influenced by the writings of Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who argued that the state should exist to serve the people, not the other way around. Rousseau's ideas were very influential on the British Stoics and helped to shape their thinking on government and politics. So, you can see that about 200 years ago, 150 years ago or so, hang on, I have this thing right here. When did the French Revolution happen? I don't need to guess. 1789. Okay, so just over 200 years ago. This is when this was all happening, and so in the recent history, because remember, this is shortly after the founding of America, and America and France were great allies. Describe the alliance between America and France at that time. In 1778, the American colonies formed an alliance with France against Britain during the Revolutionary War. The French provided financial and military support to the Americans, which was crucial in helping to win the war. After the war, The relationship became much closer. The two countries remained allies during the French Revolution and Napoleonic Wars. America also supported France during the Franco-Prussian War in 1870. Okay, so there's a close alliance here. There's this like three-way cultural affinity between America, Britain, and France. And so Stoicism, which was really important at the time, is still in effect today. Now, when you look at toxic masculinity, toxic stoicism, this idea that emotions should be suppressed, that's where you get into problems. Okay, so we've established what stoicism is and toxic stoicism. Okay, write a formal definition of toxic stoicism. Toxic stoicism is an unhealthy, holding in emotions rather than expressing them, resentment, bottled up emotions, and difficulty in relationships. Great. Okay, so if that is our definition of toxic stoicism, how can we express emotions in a healthy manner that is also consistent with stoicism? There is no one answer to this question, as different people have different ways of expressing emotions that work for them. However, some suggestions for healthy ways to express emotions include talking to a trusted friend or family member, journaling, or participating in therapy. That's great. But the underlying problem is that if you're hostile to your emotions or deny that you have emotions, it's really difficult to get in touch with them. So what if someone has suppressed their emotions to the point they are no longer in touch with them? A clinical term, this is called dissociation. In other words, someone has dissociated from their emotions. What should they do? If someone has dissociated from their emotions, it is important to seek professional help. This is because dissociating from emotions can be a sign of more serious mental health issues, such as PTSD. That is true. However, you do not need PTSD to dissociate from any emotion or sensation. I have a good friend who's a physical therapist who will talk about dissociation from pain. So let's talk about that real quick so that you understand what I mean by dissociation. So your brain has the ability to compartmentalize and minimize sensation. So what is dissociation from the perspective of sports medicine? Let's see. Dissociation is a process where an athlete mentally disconnects from the current situation in order to cope. That's close. Loss of consciousness. What about pain? Can someone dissociate from a sports injury? There is evidence that dissociation can help athletes cope with pain. In one study, runners who dissociated from the pain of running displayed less pain and exhaustion than those who did not dissociate. However, it is important to note that dissociation should not be used in a way to ignore pain or injuries. Doing so could lead to further injury. This is true. This is what my physical therapist friend was talking about. If you have a chronic injury that you learn to ignore and you just keep running on it or whatever, you'll hurt it worse. Okay. What is this similarity between dissociation, compartmentalization, and minimization? I made another video about some of these topics that was really popular. There is some overlap between dissociation, compartmentalization, and minimization. All three involve disconnecting from the current situation in order to cope. However, dissociation is more likely to involve a complete loss of consciousness, while compartmentalization and minimization are more likely to involve keeping certain thoughts or feelings at a distance. Okay, so what if someone believes in Stoicism and minimizes their emotions? What would this be called, and what can they do about it? There's no one right answer to this question. Some people might see Stoicism as a form of dissociation, while others might see it as a form of compartmentalization or minimization. Okay, it's starting to repeat itself. The important thing is that whatever coping strategy someone is using, it is effective for them. If someone is finding that their emotions are causing them distress, they may want to explore other coping strategies. Okay, this is getting kind of generic. I think I'll stop it here. The point is that there is an overlap between minimization, stoicism, toxic stoicism, and toxic masculinity. So there you have it. I just wanted to produce this. Thanks for watching.